live now. GEA talk with what? I didn't catch all that.
You should have gotten the link.
I got notified.
Did you get the link? You did not. No, it's on the Google Hangouts. You got to go back to the conversation and click the link. Click the link and we'll see if you're in there. Yes. We're trying to figure this out, people. Just trying to figure it out. That's all we're doing. So we're going to see how this works. Oh, we're seeing if we can get Bill from BC Pythons in here. I believe I sent him a link. There he is. Bill, how you doing?
Pop up under. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, and my furnace kicks on right when we do it. I'm like, great. Just time.
All right. At least you're in here. We got this going. And I believe I have lost your volume, Bill.
Oh, let me turn it up. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Bill. I can hear you now.
Let me move this over a little bit from that. I'm going to try to get to where I can see the chat if anything pops up.
Yeah, if anybody's got any questions for Bill or anything like that, just by all means.
Let this furnace run for a couple of minutes while some people join, and then we'll start firing away.
Sure.
Sorry, it's middle of winter. You know how it is.
Yeah, I know. It's cold here. It was my son works on generators in oil fields, and the generator reads the ambient air temperature, doesn't read the wind chill. And yesterday's temperature was 49 below zero.
Y'all got some good antifreeze up there.
Yeah, well, you were in the Air Force. I'm surprised you were never up here at the Air Force Base.
No. I went to Turkey for 4 years, and then from there I went to New Mexico.
Well, that ain't bad then. Warm places.
Yes. Well, my first assignment was up in the mountains of Turkey, but then they figured out, if you want a company with your family to go with you, then you have to go to Incirlik, which is by the beach. Okay, I'll take that.
Did you like it in Turkey?
Oh, I loved it. I went there for 2 years, and then my first wife got homesick, wanted to go home, so that's where that went to. So I decided to stay over there after that. So I stayed for another 2 years.
Yes.
So I was over there for 4 years total in Incirlik, 85 to 89.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Bill? Anybody? If you guys got questions, now's the time to ask them.
Trying to get my YouTube back up here. I had to restart everything.
Oh. In the conversations, we have TJ, Rob from KY Constrictors, Jay's Balls, Gage, Tone, and I think, Balls by Choice. Balls by Choice, I'm sorry I missed your live stream earlier. And Silly Snakes also is in here.
There we go.
Yes, a little bit different. This is the way, I'm going to interview people like this too. And Bill wants to do it too and get people in conversations, but he was having technical difficulties, and we got to figure out his difficulties, and then we'll be on his channel when we get this all figured out too. So let's all hang on.
Pop up on the screen. Is that what I understood?
What was that?
Oh, you have control of whose face is up there, right?
No, it comes up when I talk. My face will come up, and then when you talk, your face will automatically come up.
Oh, please, somebody else talk dirty to Andy.
You hear her back there, son? Somebody please talk. Oh man, no, yeah, maybe.
Please give everybody's eyeballs a break.
Give everybody's eyeballs a break. So, does anybody have any questions for Bill or myself?
Hello, everybody that's on here. I'm sorry for the background noise. It should be shutting off here in a couple minutes. So
You can't even hear it. I can't hear it. So.
hopefully it's not too bad. So I got my front mic on, so.
Okay, Silly Snake wants to know what's your preference, balls or hog nose?
Oh, definitely balls.
What is it that you?
Hog noses are cute and everything, but I love my ball pythons. All the different colors that you can make.
I have to agree with you. I like Dark Science is in here. Aldo, how are you doing? I have to agree. I like the ball pythons too, but my personal favorite of all of them is the Burmese python, and Becky likes the Burmese pythons too. She really does. So that's why we're do a few. Probably try to pick a few up here if we can. Let me see. There was another question up here.
There we go.
Okay, Bill, what is your breeding plans and your most anticipated clutch? That came from Rob at KY Constrictors.
Hey, what's up, Rob? Good to see you again, man. Right now, my most anticipated one is probably proving out my het pied girl. I know it may sound small to some people. It's not a Cypress black pastel magma. I just think that's what I'm excited to see if she proves out. Because I really enjoy making normals. As funny as that sounds, I just enjoy the whole process of creating these animals. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most, and hopefully Khaleesi and we'll get going later this year, and we'll see what a fire and a fire beat makes.
I got a question for how long have you been keeping ball pythons, and what got you interested in them?
2019 is my 4th year keeping them. So, and I've only been breeding them last year. It took me, I waited a couple years. I tried to learn everything I could about their setups and making sure I could take care of them before I went and had babies to take care of too.
So what's your rough estimate of how many you have then?
Total right now, we have 37.
Oh, that ain't bad. That ain't bad.
Not counting the king snake or the BC. Sorry, I'm stuck on that now. The boa, the red-tailed boa, and the hognose, those are separate. So it'd be 40 total counting them.
Do you plan to expand more as you go? Oh,
yeah. I got a lot of stuff in the works here, and as everybody knows, I make the racks, and I'm planning here in the next couple of weeks, I'm completely changing my racks again. So it's gonna be a little bit of a surprise. If you caught my other videos, you see what I've been trying to do with making them expandable. Going from one size to another. But
I did see that. Yes,
I figured it out now, so it's going to be coming out soon.
Okay, that'll be interesting. TJ from TJ's Fish and Reptiles wants to know, when can he meet you at a reptile show?
TJ, I am at Clarksville, Indiana every month. There's a schedule for Southern Indiana Reptile Breeders Expo. It's on Facebook. I believe it's just called Indiana Reptile Breeders Expo. They're on Facebook, and also I shared the dates on Instagram, and I got dates for 2019. I'll be there once a month, and I will be vending for the first time in April, but that's a little far for TJ. TJ's in Indy, so planning to come back up to Indy one of these days, but with work and running this, my hobby and my work and Cub Scouts and PTA doesn't leave a lot of free time.
No. All Time Reptiles wants to know, how do you feel about the ban of the spider ball python in England?
Wow. What can I say that I totally against that? You know, that's from what Gavin, if you follow Gavin,
Which I do.
He's the man. He loves spider. I didn't think anybody loves spiders more than I do, but he's like one of the godfathers of ball pythons, and he loved Spider Gene also. So he's been talking about it for quite some time now, and it actually come out that the IHS over there is the ones that banned them. At first, people thought it was the government, kind of like they're doing up in the Hampshires, that New Hampshire and Massachusetts mess that's going on. I don't know all the specifics of that one, but I personally think that's something we can police ourselves as breeders. I mean, if you have spiders that are flip-flopping real bad and whatnot, I think they should be pets. I think we should be able to do that ourselves. Now, if they only have a little bit of a wobble, which they all do, if they have a little bit, then I see no problem whatsoever in that. And if the animal's eating and healthy and can take prey on its own, who's to say that, that's...
I have to agree with you on that. I have one that has not a severe wobble, but it's a wobble, where my others ones that you can't really notice the wobble. And I know they all have it, but I was also found out, and I've from experience even, that if you have one that has a bad wobble, it does not mean all the offspring will have a bad wobble.
Correct.
So, but like Brian Barczyk was saying today, and he made a good point, if they take that away, there's a few other, like the champagne has a wobble. I mean, it can go down a very dark path with these animals, right, even with the scaleless, like he was saying, because they're all, even if you look at it, even a Mojave is a mutation because it's not a normal, right, so it could get ugly.
Yeah, it's like fine line in there for it can go down a road that nobody wants to see.
No. And Kevin, he did a video today, and he was in there fighting about that HB 688 or whatever it was, or 668. I can't remember the name of it, but he was on there. He did a video about that. He was on in front of people discussing it. And it wasn't, how kind of strange to have that.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad these big names are speaking up and, letting the word get out there, to see, other than just somebody talking about it. These are notable people in the hobby, in the community. So having them involved in it will only help expand the base of, what's going on with that.
Tone from Out of the Jungle. What direction is Bill going to go with his Calico gene?
Which way am I going with Calico?
Yes, he's asking you.
I'm trying to put Calico in my spiders and also in my banana.
Yeah, I got I won that Calico the other day from Old Troy City Reptiles, and then I bought a spider sugar from Lone Star Reptiles. So we're gonna take that in two different directions, I guess.
Sweet.
Yeah. Any other questions out there?
Sugar spider or sugar spider? Does he have any more of those?
I'm sure he does. You'd probably have to contact him and ask. He's got a lot of stuff coming up. So, yeah.
I think on his Facebook? Where did he post him? He didn't market, did he?
No, he's got just LoneStarReptiles.com. But if you contact him on Facebook, or even he'll give you his number, you'll call him. He has no problem.
Yeah.
Gray's Reptiles says the Calico is an amazing gene to work with, and I have to agree with you.
Yeah, I think it does all kinds of stuff. Like here, I'll show you. Probably the favorite one of mine.
Marshall, I have to agree with you. That could be a very slippery slope starting to ban things. And I think they're going to have a fight in their hands, but I think they can get that overturned if they really work for it over there, just like we had to get the Burmese python and the reticulated thing switched around again, too. So if they fight, I'm sure over there, Marshall, I'm sure they can fight and get that changed.
Yeah. I'm sure there's great people like Gavin that'll get involved over
Yes.
there. Yep. So here's my citrus pastel calico male. This is one of the calicos I want to get back in or into my stuff soon. They're big enough.
I love how some genetics make the white go extra high on the calico when it mixes with other genes, makes it go high white.
This guy is so bright yellow. I don't know if it's really showing up on there.
It's showing up on my end.
So his yellow is bright. I mean, him and Khaleesi are so bright and yellow. Yeah. You imagine that with Khaleesi, my fire bee?
What is your favorite ball python you have right now? It doesn't have to be a favorite. It could be a normal for all it is, but which one is your favorite?
My favorite as a pet, or just my favorite?
Just your favorite in general.
Oh, it has to be Khaleesi. The one and only, my second ever. Kylo was my first one, my fire. But Khaleesi, hands down, if you've watched some of my other videos and stuff, she was on my banner up until last month when I put my logo on my banner. And she's looking at me right now. People say they can't hear, but she hears the vibrations. You know, she feels the vibrations of me talking. Ever since she was a little baby, I would walk in the room and start talking. She would come to the front of the tub. So
I have to agree with you on that. There, they say they can't hear or nothing, but there are some that when you come in the room, they know you're there and they're right there to the front. Do you come out and say hi to you?
Yeah, she's looking at me right now. Oh. I don't know if she'll fit on this screen.
Oh, and she's beautiful. What is she up to in weight? Do you know?
She's got to be 1750.
1750. I weighed my big girl today, and she's over 3,000 grams. She's packing it on, and
I'm guessing I'm holding her and holding the other girl. She's probably over 18 right now, I would say. So.
Rob said his favorite is a normal. So they are sweet, Rob. I have to agree with you. Let me see. Does anybody have any other questions they want to ask him?
Let's get Khaleesi around here.
So where do you plan to take your tarantula collection? I know it's not snake related, but I know you got a good sized tarantula collection going on over there.
Oh, I got a few more. I got a new one. I picked up, actually got from Mostly Reptiles, Ruth, and her husband up there in Indianapolis. I got a P. vittata from them. I haven't done a video on it yet. It's a young one from her personal breeding of that species. So, I love the pokies. I do. I love them. And probably I'm at 14 right now, or 15, I should say. I got that new one. That's 15. And I probably don't see a whole lot more. I mean, there's a few more I'm interested in, but I think I've got the ones that I had to have. So
I love the pokies too. I don't have any at the moment, but I've been doing a lot of research, and I'm a firm believer that if you want something, if you do enough research, you can handle it. So, I got 13 or 14 down the basement now, and I plan to definitely step into the pokey realm.
Yeah,
So
most people they they see the pink toes, they see the little GBB and my OBT, and they're you know the pink toes are about the big one is about he's probably pushing 6 inches now, so he's pretty good size, and the other one's a little bit smaller, and the OBT's got to be close to 5 now, and then the pokies come out from their hiding, and the big one I got, the Ornata, she's easily 8.5, 9 inches from leg to leg.
getting up there in size. TJ says, Bill, you're awesome. And Volunteer State Ball Pythons said he has all the pokies in his collection.
Yep, they're awesome. I would probably have them all too. So right now, like I said, I'm concentrating on getting my ball python breeding squared away more and this new rack design. So in the tarantulas, I just kind of, I got the ones that I wanted right off the bat, first 5 or so that I was wanting to get. So I got those. And now it's just kind of as I'm going along, I'm learning like, hey, I like that one. So like the Venezuelan sun tiger, those are awesome.
Sun tiger. I watched a video of a sun tiger, and a guy opened up the cage, and the sun tiger was like out. He was taking it out, like rehousing. It was gone.
Yeah.
And he in the blink of an eye, and it was all the way on the one side of the room. He grabbed the cup, and by the time he got the other side of the room, it was 3 rooms down. That's how fast they are.
It's about as fast as that rabbit behind your head.
Yeah, the little rabbit behind my head. I've seen that.
So how's the family doing? Everybody doing good?
Oh, everybody's doing great. Yeah, everybody's doing great here. It's just really cold, like I said. Other than that, it's not doing so bad. What does your daughter think of all your animals, like your ball pythons and your tarantulas? Do you think she's going to get into it, or is she just like a fan?
She helps with the snakes. She really doesn't care about the tarantulas. She's kind of like, they're okay. At first, she's like, I ain't coming in there no more. And then, now she's gotten over that. So, but she's real busy with school currently and stuff too. And then she has her friends and they get together on Roblox and play. So that's, I'm letting her be a kid right now.
Of course, that's the way I am too. As Andrew, he had a fear of them, and then Andrew's tarantula put that video out for him, kind of helped him along a little bit. Then I guess him and Becky sat down, had a discussion. She decided, and he decided, yeah, okay, we'll get a few and see how it goes. Now he goes in there, and when he gets up in the morning, he picks them all up, looks at them, and says, hello, So he's getting over it.
Yeah.
So
my wife, she loves the pink toes.
Yes. Does anybody have any other questions for Bill?
Those are her favorites. So.
KB Reptiles is in here. How are you doing, KB Reptiles? How's everything over there?
Yep. I hope to see a bunch of guys up in Chicago next month. So
Yes, March.
Exquisite Exotics, they'll be back up there next month. Dave, Dale, and Holly.
Yeah, I won't be able to make that one. So
I'll be there unless there's a freak snowstorm or something.
Monk from Balls by Choice wants to know, do you have any Orange Dream in your collection?
Another spider, actually. Let's see if I can pull her out. An Orange Dream spider that's hatched for Orange Dream.
KB, we're doing really good here. Except it's really cold. Like I said, it was 50 below without the wind. So with the wind chill, it was colder than that, KB. So it's been pretty cold. I keep forgetting to, so much stuff's been going on, KB, that I haven't had a chance to call you yet, but I'm going to call you. I know you've heard that 1,000 times already, but it's coming.
This is my Ingy Orange Dream spider. It's possible orange ghost.
the Enchi makes it orange, and then you add the Orange Dream to it, and it's really orange looking.
What are you doing? What are you doing? I want to get her head caught. There we go. She's pretty sure she could be eating tonight, she says. But you can tell her pattern, how much the Inchi and the Orange Dream smooth out the markings. The Khaleesi's are jagged on the fire beam. That's what it does to the patterns, how clean it makes them.
Monk said that's crazy nice. He loves it. Now, if you had any suggestions for somebody getting into the hobby, what would one of your suggestions be?
Don't do it.
That's Becky. Becky in the yeah, Bill laughing at you.
Hey, coming from somebody that, just was at a car show and got into this, 4 years ago, and it's like, do your research, decide if you want pets or if you want to get into breeding. Because if you want to get into breeding, you're going to have to quickly, or you're going to pile up a bunch of animals that you're not in your breeding plans. You buy them because you like them. So you have to think about that. If you're planning on breeding, there's a whole nother road to go down. If you're planning on just keeping them as pets, do your research, put them in a nice home, have that home up and running before you bring it home, and talk to people like Andy, myself, KY Constrictors, watch videos, from all of us, from Balls to You, is, hands down some of the best knowledge you'll get on snakes and ball pythons. So.
And like Monk said, and I have to agree with Monk here, balls by choice. Buy your females first because it takes them so long. They have to get so big before you can breed them.
Right.
So
I was going to say, if you're going down the breeding path, yeah, that's a whole other thing to get into. Yeah, buy the females and grow them up because you can buy the males anytime. And half the time, the males will drop in price by the time you get your females up to where you want to be. So,
yes, definitely buy your females first. KB Reptile said that's great advice, Bill. What do you plan to you were asked this before, but for the new people that just came in, what would be your favorite breeding project of the year of this year?
Of course, Khaleesi, getting her to breed later this year. But the favorite one I'm looking for is proving out this Het Pied. Just because she has been such a sweetheart, and I paired her with the pastel Het Pied. And he's 100%, and she's, they didn't have an exact percentage, so I would say 66%. So it was from a reputable breeder. So
now,
that's what I'm excited about. And next year I got so much. You ask me that question next year, and you'll be blown away.
Silly Snakes had a question for you, Bill. She hears people mentioning pied markers. Do you have one with markers on it so you can show it? I don't have one available with me right now because
let's hope they're not in my bedroom.
Yeah.
The day they're in my bedroom is the day you get thrown out the door.
You want to know the best pied marker?
What's that?
You want to know the best pied marker?
A visual pied.
Right here. There you go. I've been told there's several different ones. Like on this guy, my Het Clown. If you look at this guy and you look at a normal pastel and then you look at a pastel Het Clown, you'll see one is brighter than the other. Is that showing up there?
Yes. Yes, it is.
This is the Het Clown, and then this is the Het Pied. He's darker. He may be trying to go into shed a little bit, but he is a lot darker in the contrast. But supposedly, I have no pie.
Oh, I can see the train tracks on that.
Yeah, I'm no expert, but I would say that's a pretty good indication. And they go past the vent back here. So
I do know that not all het pieds have that marker. Some are het pieds and they don't have the marker. So, you can't always count on that being, when it doesn't have it, not being a het pied. But I did some research and found out that some clown lines have a black stripe on the back of their tail that go from their vent to the tip of the tail on the underbelly. So I don't know if yours has that or not, but they do have that.
As you can tell, I never handle my snakes. They're like freaking out, aren't they? Ah! Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that black stripe that's right on the very bottom on the belly.
Yeah. Yep, it goes all the way down. And he is 100% clown.
Silly snakes, yes, it's the black lines on the side, but it goes up. It's just like a solid wavy line, that's what you look for.
Where are you going? See, where this guys are all broken up, if you compared it to the pied that was up a while ago, see how they're not a solid, what they call train tracks? They go all the way down here. If you knew what all 6 of these babies, which I got to do some unboxing videos, the impressive babies I have going up there is what I'm excited about this year, growing them up for next year's breeding. So some of the males that are up there. The females, they're, 20, what is it? 2021.
So what's your next big ball python you plan to add to your collection?
I'm really looking to add more calico females. It sounds simple, but it's not just going to be a calico. It's going to have something else in it, like the citrus pastel calico male. It's going to be something along those lines. What I'll be looking for next month. And also, I have a cinnamon clown male, and I have a clown female. So I'm kind of looking for another female to pair him with, and the clown something else, whether it be a pastel clown or something darker.
Do you plan to get any other kind of reptiles other than the ones you have now? Like, do you plan to get into any other kind of pythons or anything?
No, much as I would love to have another red tail, I don't see adding that on right now. Just ball python.
Do you have does your wife or you, or I should say your wife, have like a limit to where she says you can't go beyond this number?
Yeah.
No.
She does. Just whatever I can take care of and, properly feed. I see it at the shows all the time. People come in, I got 10 animals and, I can't feed them all. I'm like,
you shouldn't even really be here then.
You got carried away. Why are you here? So, yeah, that's, I personally set a limit when I first got this was 10.
What's that?
You answered that question you just asked.
Do I? No, I don't have a number. As long as I can take care of them all.
I told my wife 10. I should have no more than 10 when I started. I think I have 10.
I'm glad you think you can do whatever you want. I won't care.
No, I have to ask you.
See, my number is the minute she says no more, that's it.
Yeah. No,
See.
I mean, we never really set any limits on each other like that. What I would say is, you know, and it's also good advice for everybody out there, you know, especially if you're new getting in this, getting into breeding, plan ahead. You know, if you got uh, 10 ball pythons and you don't think about it in 2 years that you're going to breed, you know, say your females are older, they're growing up, and you breed 3 of them, that's potentially 24 babies. So you're going to go from 10 mouths to 34 mouths like that.
And another thing you have to worry about is getting rid of the animals. If you know you can breed them, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to sell them, and you could be stuck with them animals for a while. So you have to have the potential to say, I can handle taking care of all these animals.
Right.
Do you ever plan to breed rats or anything?
We have some deals in the work right now we're going to start breeding African soft furs here. So supposed to be picking a herd of them up here shortly, and with my buddy that helps me out at the shows and stuff, he's found us a channel to get some good ones up here in Indiana. So we're going to try. Nobody is selling them at the shows or anything here, and I know it's kind of a niche food group, but when you get some that are, you know, ball pythons, of course, go off food, and sometimes it'll help trigger them.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that whole thing of once they go on African soft furs or ASFs, they'll never eat another rat.
No,
I don't.
We have a breeder up here that breeds African soft furs, and Becky picks them up for me, and I fed them to the animals. And they went the next week. They took another rat like it was nothing. So,
right.
I don't know.
I want to do it because, you know, there's less smell to them, and I'm the more and the longer I'm in this hobby, the more I'm about producing quality. I want my animals to be fed good rodents, you know, whether it's African soft furs, which are significantly higher in protein compared to regular rats. So that's one of the reasons for myself doing it.
I could tell you this about African soft furs. One, they're a little faster. They're smaller.
Right.
They jump a lot, and they do have a little bit more of an attitude when it comes to trying to bite you other than a regular rat. So good luck with that.
I've been bit with a big rat too. Those hurt.
I know. When I had the pet store, I got bit. It went right through my finger, pierced it right through the finger.
Yeah, that's why I tell everybody it's not the scaly animals in my house you got to worry about. It's the furry thing.
Oh yeah, that rat went right into a snake cage, but that's where it was going to begin with when it bit me. But you know.
Yep, the guinea pig bites people. The birds bite people, and yeah, the rabbit. The snakes won't.
No.
Shouldn't. I would never tell anybody. No, everybody out there doesn't bite. Thing I've said from day one: anything with a mouth can and will bite.
It happens. So how is the LSR Fire doing?
No, doing good. He decided not to eat last week or this week, but he's doing good. I don't know what's up with that.
That's what all ball pythons, though. They seem to go through that sometimes.
I think he's just in a growth spurt, but he's not underweight or malnutrition.
He's looking really good.
And then there's his tail, like you were talking about earlier. He has nothing on his tail. So, like you were talking about the clown marker. Yep, and he's doing real good.
He is possibly het for albino, though, just so you know.
Yeah, yep. I think I got that wrote on the card. That's the toughest tub I have. I need to redo that one someday. What were they going to say? Somebody's going to say.
It felt like an air pocket.
Yeah.
And then all that cereal came out with a burp.
Did you get
Andy ran a pet store for what, 30 years?
20.
20 years.
20
20
years. So,
Sorry, I didn't mean to date you. Sorry.
oh, yeah. KB, you got a shipment in from Lone Star Reptiles. Did you get any of the LSR Fire stuff up there in Canada? I had another question for you too. Now I got to think. Because you showed that LSR Fire, and I happened to forget the question for some reason. So can't remember, but that's okay. Have you had any trouble with like egg binding or anything like that with any of your animals?
Myself?
Yes.
No, I haven't. I've been lucky. Everything. I hear horror stories and people have messaged me. I think she's got 2 eggs stuck. I'm like, well, if you don't know what to do with them, take them to the vet. You know.
Yeah. One thing I have learned over the 30 years of doing animal stuff is if the animal's not in distress, you leave it be.
Let it be.
I had one last year that got 2 eggs stuck in it. You leave it be. The eggs will come out eventually, because when they're passing them eggs through, they get some swelling going on and things get stuck. And just start feeding them again, getting them back into the regiment. I think she held them in for 4 or 5 months, something like that, and they came out. The eggs are no good, but they came out just fine. And it's just a matter of time. That's all. If they're not distressed. Because what you do,
you were stressed about it last year, weren't you?
A little bit. And then I was like, well, it's fine. But what you do, what you find out you do is if you go to the vet tries to do things that they use for the little furry animals, which a reptile, it's a totally different, it's not a furry animal. So you can't do the same thing, but that's what they try to do. So, KY, what did you do when, KB, what did you do when yours got egg bound, if you don't mind me asking? And so the next big thing you're doing is going to Tinley, huh? In March?
Yep, I'm excited. Well, we got our show this Sunday down here in Clarksville. And this coming, not tomorrow, next Sunday. This weekend is Cincinnati. But our show will be the 17th in Clarksville. That's the next big one. And then Tinley, of course, that's on another level from your local regional shows. So,
do you have any plans of becoming like I know you vend your
yes.
racks there, but do you plan to vend reptiles there at these shows too?
Oh, I sold 6 snakes last month at the show. So my rat breeder down in Kentucky that I get my frozen and live from, they also do some ball pythons, and they have some pretty impressive animals in their collection. I've been getting some the stuff from them to supplement while I get my stock up. I don't go buying, out of somebody's trunk of their car and reselling them at the next show. I don't do that. So I get them from somebody like that. It's a good breeder. Helps them out because they're not into the whole show thing. And as you know, from running business and stuff, selling online and everything can be tough too. So they're more than happy for, send 10 animals a month my way to move along for them, and helps me, gain people that I know. So, because I sold all my clutch, and probably the first, except for the one guy I have, I think I sold them all within the first 3 months. So
what's your goal number of what you plan to produce when you're at your, like, do you have like a set number you want to produce eventually, or?
No, I haven't really nailed it down because it's going to depend on 2019. I'm concentrating on females. All 6 of these up here are females, or 5. The top row of 6 babies up here are all females that I've bought. since late last year and into this year. So 2019 is just, I'm just stocking females is my go. I have a yellow belly that was bigger size, and I also got a pinstripe yellow belly up here that's juvenile, but the other one will be ready to go next year. So
KB Reptile said they'll be at Tinley in March also, so maybe they'll meet up with you and see you there or something.
oh yeah, yep, definitely love Barles and Kari. We'll get. I won't be there on Friday, unfortunately. I'll be there Saturday and Sunday. I'll be there early Saturday morning all day. I'll hope to meet up with them and have dinner or something. Last time it was October is like chaos at Tinley. March is a little calmer, even though I hear the show. This is going to be the biggest March Tinley ever because they opened up the other door that they normally only open up. There's like another section. It'll be open this time for the first time.
I'll definitely have to try to make that in October. That March is not going to happen, but October maybe. Do you ever think of going to any of them big shows like the Pomona show in California or anything like that? Have you ever thought about doing anything like that?
Eventually, but my goal is, I'm doing my local shows. I'm branching out with Evansville. I'll be in Lexington, April 27th, bending there. And probably my immediate for 2020, my goal is to have my rack design and have my animals going by 2020 October Tinley show. I don't know if I'll be able to get into that one. I can probably get into the March one in 2020. But if I lay the, vendor requests and all that and get in line, that is my first goal before I go traveling out that way. There is some replicons that are near me. I think there's one in Charlotte, Nashville, I hear is a good one. But those are one-day shows. So
I'm sure they fill up quick with vendors real fast and they run out of room. But Boris said he'll definitely see you there. He's never been to one in March, but he'll definitely be seeing. He's looking forward to going to March, and he'll see you there in March for sure. And he said the Pomona show is amazing.
Oh yeah, I see. It looks amazing. So yeah, that's my son lives out there, so I have a place I could crash and go there. But I'm so busy with my own thing and my own work. I travel a lot for my work. Like this week, I was all over Kentucky and Ohio traveling with work. And sometimes on the weekends, I just like to stay close.
What is it you do?
I work on backup power systems.
Oh.
For data centers and hospitals and any big business that's got a big UPS system, uninterruptible power supply, it's called, a bank of batteries with an inverter system to provide electricity till the computers and stuff when the power goes off until a generator will kick on, or if they don't have one, to run on the batteries for a while so the computers don't instantly crash.
Monk from Balls by Choice wanted to know, do you do rodent racks at all? And I would like to add to that question, have you ever thought about making rodent racks?
We have. My buddy Troy is actually building some right now. And I was trying to talk him into building them like on a smaller scale instead of 10 high. He was going to build some that were shorter that we could sell. So,
okay.
Me personally, no.
Yeah. KB Reptile said maybe next year, Pomona. I'm assuming that's what he meant.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Rob. Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris is on here. There we go. I gotta go get me a glass of water. Hang on.
Sure. I will be right here. I'll talk to everybody. Yes, Max Moore, how you doing? Thanks for joining us today. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. This is going to be a pretty good episode. This was supposed to be on Bill's channel, but we were having technical I'm tongue-tied. We were having technical difficulties getting everything up and running. And so I just did it here because my computer was up and going and was able to get it up there. George, how are you doing today, sir? You do good, George. You do good. Rodent racks. I have to agree. I like your rodent racks and things like that. So yeah. This was an unexpected one, Dylan. So
Yep.
that's
Right.
what happened. That's what happened there. Monk from Balls by Choice. He wanted to know, would you be able to ship those just like you ship your reptile racks?
Oh, the rodent.
Yes.
I'm sorry, the rodent racks. Probably not, unless you can build them, because they're made out of 2x4s and 1x1s, and you'd have to make them, disassemble them, because if you tried to ship those, they're not that solid on the sides, so there would be a lot of bouncing and they would get tweaked.
Okay, that's not. I understand that because like the rodent racks that Becky and I had built. Becky did more of the building than I did. When you start moving them around, they kind of loosen up compared to the racks do.
Right. I mean, you'd have to put extra screws in them because they'll tweak, this way or that way, and shipping can be rough sometimes. So.
Max Morse says we're lucky with all the abundance of racks and stuff that we can get over here, and the inexpensiveness of them and how hard they're kind of hard to get over there. And I have to agree. I was looking online, and for European over in Europe over there, the rack systems they get they're pretty expensive, and there isn't very many different kinds of them over there to choose from.
Yep. I know they got it tight over there.
Yeah, I liked. You got into them because your wife said you should build them, right? Is that what you said that one time, or you were thinking about building them?
When I got my first sea serpent rack, and my wife's like, "Well, you should start building those because you're pretty." I like to build a lot of things back in my RC car days and everything, and real cars that I work on, and so I started digging into it and like, well, I could build something similar, and then I made them out of melamine like we all do, and seeing, okay, there's these other options out here, and after about a year, that melamine started absorbing wood into it. So being here in Indiana, our humidity is like 90% in the summer. So we have a lot of humidity naturally in the air. So I noticed they were swelling a lot. So I was like, well, I'm thinking something else. So let's see what this was made out of. And I'm like, okay, let's go with it and see. So she's like, go with it and see what you can do, what you can build.
You did a good job.
I used them myself for 2 years before I even sold them, just to make sure they'd work. So.
KB Reptile said Barris and I got divorced over building rodent racks. We buy them now. Now, see, one thing I learned is when Becky starts something, I just stay out of the way and I get her stuff when she asks for it. Because if I got involved, we would be at each other's throats because she does very well without it.
I remember the incubator.
Oh. How is that one? Do you still have one like that?
It's still sitting over in the corner waiting for me to have that blow up video, remember?
Oh, yes. Emma she went to town with ours with that baseball bat. It was funny. It was good. She did a good job. But yeah, we even replaced, well, you saw the video. We replaced the piece and it still only worked a day and then it stopped working. So it was like,
yep.
I don't even see why they sell them.
My newest incubator I built on my Instagram today. It's a nice big True Line. It's not as big as the 6-foot one in the garage that I'm trying to find a door for eventually, but it's 4 foot. So I should be able to get a decent amount of clutch in there for next year. So.
Well, I got the 2 of them. I got 3 of them. 4 with the little Hoverbaiter one, but the cooler one I built was seems to be the most efficient one I've ever built. We used to use aquariums back in the day, but aquariums, it's such thin glass, they really don't hold the heat. It's really hard for them to hold the heat. But the cooler, and I did a video on that, the cooler one works about the best. But the refrigerator ones and the two refrigerator ones I got, they work good too. But they seem to, you have to constantly add humidity to those, where the cooler one has the water in the bottom of it and it runs great.
Right. Yep. I used the cooler there for 2 weeks, but like I said, I was new to breeding last year, and I'm a real visual guy. I like to be able to see things. So, I was like, are they molding or something? I would sit there and I'd start thinking about all these things laying in bed, and I had to come down and open it.
I talked about that on my video today for people that, I said, I'm a guy, I have a hard time, my patience. I can't wait for stuff to happen. And I said, I'm bad now, even when I put eggs in an incubator, always checking them. But I says, when you first get a clutch, people are always like, every couple hours, yeah, looks good. It's funny.
Oh yeah. And speaking of that, here's that little guy. Just yesterday ate his first regular sized mouse live. This is the one I hand fed from my first clutch for 17 weeks.
Wow.
Pinky mouse that I had to twist into his mouth and assist feed. For 17 weeks, I did that. And this is how I'm rewarded, and he'll never leave my home and collection. So, and he is nice and plumping up nicely now.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to feed him a little bit to get him going like that. But Max Morphs said, I need to have Becky teach his wife how to build racks, stuff like that.
That's probably the most thing that I'm most proud of in 2018 was getting that guy to survive. I know a lot of people out there that said, probably the best thing to do. We all know what it is.
Oh, I know what they say. I give him a chance. I give him a fighting chance. I will work with him until.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I can't. I'm not made that way. I mean, if it has some horrible defect where the animal's not going to make it, yeah. But otherwise, looking normal, happy, healthy, that just needed a little work. He's perfectly thriving now.
Jay's Balls said the wine cooler fridge works flawless for him, and that's and then I think they work great. I noticed a lot of people, because I have a mini fridge one too, and I've built several of these over the years, and I've given them to people and stuff. But a lot of people take that air compressor, the compressor out of the back. Then when they open the door, the refrigerator falls forward. So I always leave that in there. I take everything else up, but I leave that in there for a counterbalance.
How heavy those front doors are. Those front doors, there's multiple panes of glass on those front doors. And when you open them, dude, that's a lot of weight.
Yep. Reagan said hello, and she loves you.
Hey, good to see you, Reagan. I need to refresh my chat.
Yeah, see, Rob says anyone using the incubator who's incubating their eggs for the first time use press and seal. But like my incubator, the one I just built, the cooler, you don't need to use press and seal. So, but anything with the refrigerators, I always use press and seal. I have to agree with you, Rob, 100% press and seal.
Yep, that's what I use. I got a row down here of put a no touch sign on for the wife to stay away from it. That's mine. Stay away from mine. It's got to be the press and seal. It's not the generic. It is the press and seal.
That's brand. What I have too. The absolute press and seal, and it's downstairs in my room.
It works the best. I'm sorry. No, that's not a paid endorsement. It works. So
let me see here.
You want to put the best foot forward that you can.
Yes. And here's another trick, and I know a lot of people don't know this. Some people don't. I'm not saying everybody don't know it, but if you have an egg and it starts to mold, if you get the anti-foot fungal powder and brush it on the egg, it stops the mold from growing. It really does. So a lot of people don't know that. I would do my best to save the egg. Sometimes they don't make it, but sometimes they do.
What would you say causes that? I hardly had any spots of it just in the last, couple of weeks that I started noticing some little, I don't even think it was mold, it's just little brown spots. But I have seen some that are like coated. So.
Well, the brown spots, I'm not sure. I've had that on eggs too. But when I'm talking little fuzz, like the fuzz starts growing. And the only thing I could think of is that, like the substrate that you have them on or something. I don't know what you use, but some people use vermiculite and stuff. I think sometimes that gets, like a bacteria or something that makes it start growing a fungal in it, like a fungus in it, not a bacteria, but a fungus in it. And if the egg starts going bad, it will definitely start growing a fungus. And sometimes, an egg, I'm going to assume, starts going bad in one spot and works its way through the egg. So if you can control it from going, just to get it through the incubation period, sometimes they work out. I've had ones, though, that have went bad, and I've stopped it from growing, but then the snake itself inside didn't develop all the way because it went bad anyway. So Dylan said building an incubator was one of the funnest builds he's ever done.
Good night, KB. Good to see you.
Yeah. Good night, KB. Thanks for stopping in. It's great to have you here. What's the name? Max Morph says he puts his on an egg crate, on a crate.
Yeah,
which I guess the light diffuser. Do you use the
vermiculite, and then I have a grid that I put on top of there, and I put the water level just like I did mine just exactly the way that Miguel shows in his videos with the press and seal and the water. I rinse. Most people don't show it, but I take the vermiculite and I can take it straight out of the bag into like a 28 quart or a 16 quart, depending on how many I'm mixing up. And I take that to the sink and I will run water through it for like 6 times to filter out all the loose particle dust and all that, and let it dry like that, and then put it in, and you'll see the difference. The water's a lot clearer and not so much dust. So
I prefer vermiculite myself, and I did the video the other day and I showed you how to mix it up. That's what I do.
Right?
Yeah, I use that for ball python eggs too. So same technique. It doesn't. I find it works good, and the reason I do that is because I find a lot of people do this egg crate or the sponges with the crate on it and all that. But what I said is it's something they've done for years and years and years, and no major issues. So why change it?
Right.
But now with the other, because that sucks up a lot of moisture, and I mean it really sucks up moisture. With the other incubator, the chest incubator, I'm definitely going to use I use perlite, because perlite doesn't absorb the water like the vermiculite does. So the perlite will work great down there for that.
Yep.
And I believe that's what Garrett Hartle does too.
Yeah, because the white stuff, right?
Yes, perlite.
Yeah,
And then
that's what I use, not vermiculite. I'm sorry, the white's what I use. That's what's in my egg box.
Yeah,
not vermiculite, perlite.
Perlite. But I use vermiculite too. And Becky found it. You can go to like Home Depot or something and buy it. And it can be like $10 a bag. But she went to the big store up here, the big nursery, and found great big. They're like 5 foot high bags. They're about as 3 foot, 4 foot round for like $20. So I was like, fine, I'll take them.
There you go.
So, well, does anybody else have any questions for Bill?
Hey, JW down here. I didn't see him in there earlier. How's it going?
Oh yeah, JW's in here. Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot to. I usually announced everybody, and I forgot I didn't announce him.
Also works to leave your eggs in with your snake like Jay did.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that too. Did you ever think of the maternal incubation?
I seriously thought about trying it with my het pied girl, but last year with the big girl, when I was trying to do everything I could to learn, the whole incubator process. And I built the cooler. I did that little small one that we both had that died on us. Luckily I started that, which is another thing. Start your incubator 3 months before you need it. Let it run, make sure it works good. Don't start it up the week you think you're going to have eggs. So,
yeah, you don't want to have any wake up one morning and be like, wow, it stopped working. What's going on?
Yeah, that would have killed our eggs. We'd have both had them in there.
Yeah,
that would have been a lost bud.
Oh yeah, that would have upset me. We had it running I think it ran for 2 days and it went, and I was like, wow, well, lucky we noticed that one. Max Morph says he uses the sponge message with the light diffuser on it, so that way he could monitor with the sponges under it, and he can see how much water levels in there, which is also very good. Yes, that's a very good idea.
That's what I like about the white Pro. Like you can see the water level in there.
Yeah, the reason the maternal incubation is very good. I know Jay did that last year, which was excellent, and he did a video of it the whole time. Really good. The only thing I wouldn't, because a lot of people don't like doing that, and myself included, only because I like to get them back on food right away, and then this way they're sitting there for months not eating anything. But he says he really didn't have any major trouble, right? You're in here. You didn't have any issues with her losing weight or anything, did you? And then a lot of people, if you don't have very many ball pythons and you do that, you really can't breed them the next year. Most of the time, you need to let them rest a whole year before you do it again. Oh, and he says maternal incubation takes extra patience.
Yes.
Now, did you ever what temperature do you incubate your eggs at? Most people do it like 88 degrees, 89 degrees.
90 degrees.
90 degrees?
Well, I got the middle of the middle at 90 degrees. I mean, it may go 89, it may go 90 and a half, but it's right in that range.
Yes. That's what I do too, unless I'm incubating something that's has kinking issues, then I drop the temperature down on that. Let me see here. Let me see if there's any other questions. Yeah, JW. I didn't even notice you asked that, but he just answered it. It's like 89 to 90, somewhere in there. He asked what the parameters were for temperatures, like the highs and the lows. So
that's the temperature, and that's not the temperature inside of your egg tub. That's the temperature inside your incubation chamber, like your probe were to be setting just directly above the eggs, not actually in. You don't want it inside the tub with the eggs. You want it outside.
Yes. Do you use a fan in your incubator? That's what Max Morph is asking you.
Yes. That's the last thing I got to finish up on this one. I have the other one. I can just set it in there, but I'm trying to switch over the fan that's in the top of it to a switch on the back that'll kick on when the thermostat kicks on. That fan, that's the way it was on the small one. So when the heating element kicked on with the thermostat, the fan was also on that same power strip, so it would also turn on.
Now, I know with the cooler method with the water in it, I use a wave maker that just circulates the water in the bottom, keeps it very well maintained. Well, Rob has to leave, so Rob, you have a great night. Thank you for stopping in here.
Yep, good to see you, Rob. Thanks for stopping by.
Monk from Balls by Choice said he finds that most 90-degree temperature incubators leaves at about 88 inside the tub.
There you go.
So, Bill, do you have anything to add or anything you want
to? No, let me show you my new tarantula.
Okay, let's see this new tarantula.
See if it shows up on here. Oh, a little higher. It's up on top of the lid. If you can see him or not.
I can see him.
Can you see him? There, he's coming down the side so you can see him better. There you go. It's the Poecilotheria vittata. If you want to see what it looks like when it gets big, Google it. It's impressive.
Very impressive. Silly Snakes want to know what's an easier method out of mine or your method of incubating eggs. Now, I find I use both methods. I use the refrigerator method with the fans, and I use the cooler method. And I think the cooler method is going to find out to be easier for me because it really controls the amount of moisture in there. I mean, you have the humidity's at 100%. You have nothing to worry about. Because I know Marshall Law from Marshall Law Morphs, he did it last year, and I was over there, and I looked at his eggs, and his eggs were beautifully pearly white. They were nice size, no issues whatsoever. He didn't even have a dark spot on any of his eggs using the cooler method.
Yeah. Yep. I like I said, I built mine the way Gerhard Hartl did. What'd she say?
I got chopped in the neck by Emma come running in. She chopped me in the neck real fast.
How did she do it?
She like that.
Poor Andy. He's always getting abused.
That's all right. I can handle it. Here's a question for you guys. If a newcomer to the hobby had $2,000, what would you tell them to do with it themselves?
Spend it on something else.
What direction would you send them if they had $2,000 to spend? If they were newcomers that came to you and said, "Bill, I have $2,000 and I want to get into the hobby," what would you tell them to spend it on?
Run away.
BC pythons.
That's funny, BC python. He said he would tell them to spend it on BC pythons. So, oh yeah.
No,
money.
$2,000. I mean, do you have any snakes, or are you just getting into it? You just looking to.
Yeah, he says if they're just getting into it, like they were a newcomer to the hobby and they want to get into it, and what would you tell them to spend their money on?
Go back to my first question about that earlier when someone asked a similar question. Do you want to breed them, or do you want to have them as pets? That's
good.
Big.
Good question. That's a good point.
If you're just going to have them for pets, get you to, Taj Mahal or whatever you want to put them in, for display purposes.
Rack system.
Becky said Becky's idea is definitely good. Invest in a good rack system.
Right.
Liners?
Yeah, and CMC liners.
Ed's liners are awesome. Yep.
I know.
Which is another reason I redesigned my new rack so I can get CMC liners.
There you go. Good point. That's good. But what I would say to do is, even if you start off as you want them as a pet, get something you really like. Because if you get something you really like, even if it's a common morph out there or something, if you start breeding that, you can work that gene and make it the best that you can make it and still be successful at breeding.
Yeah. That's one thing too. I would say, buy the animal that you like. That way it's going to hold your attention. You're going to want to take care of it. You're going to want to be there with it. If you just, get what you're wanting to get. So if a snake costs $500, go ahead. If that's the one you want to get with your $2,000, get that, get you a nice rack and go from there.
And another thing is, even if you're starting off new, I would definitely get a female, because if you change your mind and want to breed later on, at least you can have her getting up the size. But yeah, Max Morph said no, just starting up with nothing, just like completing to get started.
Yeah, get yourself a rack system that you can possibly breed in and expand in. You know, it's kind of like buying, I guess you would say, fish tanks. I'm sure Andy can relate, selling them in the stores for years. People come in, they want to get a tank set up, and they buy the $30 10-gallon setup and take it home, and they got it about 2 months, and next thing you know, hey, I want to get a bigger one, you know. When if they'd have listened to the pet store owner who said, well, you know, you could have got something bigger, you know, get something bigger, you know, what is your goal? Are you going to keep 5 fish, or you suddenly like them and now you got 20 and you got 20 in a 10-gallon? So it's a housing thing. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I have to agree. Silly Snake says, this isn't a cheap hobby, so don't rush in. Definitely do your research, basically, and get what you really want to get, But what do you think of these real expensive morphs, like the Sunsets and the Dark Wonder Gene? This stuff is going to be in the rainbow, like the ball python, the rainbow ball python. These are genes that are like $20,000. And they used to say back in the day, the year the time of the real expensive stuff is over, but it's not, because it's still coming out.
It's not. It's still coming. I mean, it's still coming. When I first got into this, people were saying at the shows, they're like, well, you can't sell $1,000 snake anymore. And I'm like, they're still selling them every day, 3 years later. But yeah, what do I think about it? It's fascinating. It's great. It spurs more. I mean, am I going to go out and buy one of these animals? No, not. I won't. That's. I guess you could say, fascinated by the genetics, that takes to make all these creations. I mean, the time and effort that's put into those projects, like Justin, they've been working on that stuff for years. And Garrick DeMeyer, they've been working on these projects for years. They got a lot of animals, they got a lot of food, they got a lot of heating, everything into those projects. So, if you say they sell for 20,000, it costs a big picture in modern day prices and everything. It's really not a big jump from back in the days when $100,000 makes per
hour. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I mean, they're not making a killing at 20,000 either. I mean, that is years of investment into those projects.
Yeah, well, I know, like Bob Clark, he had to convince his wife to let him take out a mortgage to buy the first albino ball python. But now look at it; it blew up, right. But the prices come down. But like with like the Sunset and stuff like that, they're very expensive, and it's a limited. If you're getting into something like that, and if you're going to save up your money and buy something like that, you have to think of it's a limited market at the moment. Right. Not everybody's there isn't too many people going to say, well, let me drop 20 grand on this snake. There are not very many of them out there.
Right. And I mean, I have never been, I guess maybe when I was younger, I was fascinated with the newest trend or fad or whatever that came out, but being in this, I see all these, when the magmas come out and everybody's got to go and get, all the ingredients to make a magma, okay, by the time you brew up your magmas, the prices are going to come down.
Way down.
Right. So you got to think of it that way too. I am not one to say, it's like the scaleless. And the scaleless, personally, for me, the scaleless heads, I'm not into that. I does nothing for me. I see no need to get into that in my collection.
Yeah.
Mm,
There's a lot of stuff out there I feel the same way about. Now, what you got to do is to take into consideration, you have to look at projects like Justin does. He'll look at something and say, well, if I put all this together, I can get something and think it's going to look like this, but that's 5 years down the road. And that's what people have to do. They have to put their stuff together now. Because if you go get your stuff now, by the time you get all that put together, because there's what's there, 5, 6 genes in that, it'll take you 10 years to get it to where he's at.
Right. Somebody just messaged me today. I got me a black pastel. I'm like, okay. Do you have a clown? No.
I like the black pastel.
No, but I got a black pastel. Congratulations.
Yeah, I have a lot of black pastel in my collection. I actually like it.
Yeah, I do too. And I don't know. I'm just not one of those, I got to jump in and get into that. No, I at first my first 10 snakes were more, I bought them I really liked the way it looked, and I was not into the whole genetics at that time. I was learning, and, my first snake was the fire Kylo, and then they got the fire B, and I had no, the people I got her from, she was 78 grams, she was a pretty yellow snake. That's what I loved about her, yellow and black. And I really didn't get into the whole genetics at that time. And then I got home and started doing the research, and I'm like, wow. Her and Kylo can actually make an all white snake. It was like, I was blown away, completely, not by, I didn't buy her saying, okay, I'm going to breed her with Kylo. Didn't know. That's why I said, if you're new at it, do your research first and find out, hey, and get what you want to make or something, So it opened me up to the whole genetics and mutations that you can do. So.
Balls by Choice Monk said he remembers watching a video by Marcus that said he loves selling $10,000 snakes, but he would rather sell $1,100 snakes. So,
yeah.
And you'd probably sell them $1,100 snakes faster than you would the $10,000 snake. Easy.
You're gonna put a lot of rats into that $10,000 snake.
Yes. And Max Morph said, you're on your own journey, so you just take your ideas and put them together and go down that path.
Yep. We're all only here for a short time. Do what you want to do what you like to do, Yeah,
I have to agree.
The hobby, we're in the whole grand scheme of it, we've all had incidences in our family and stuff that set you back and everything. So it's, day by day.
And I'm going to tell you, you'll be in this hobby and then you'll find like a different path you want to take completely and redo your whole thing. And that happens to people. You'll be in it and you'll be like, I'm going this way. And then you're like, wait a minute, I really want to do this. And then they end up getting rid of what they have and starting over again.
Right. I mean, I have a Butter Lesser and Chica up here, at the time, I was going to breed those, the male Butter Lesser and then Chica, Chloe's Butter Pastel. We were going to breed those, which I still am. And, but that was 2 years ago when we got them. And, are they in the future plans of what I'm doing now? No, not really, but they're still here, so.
And you can't be in it for the money either. You have to be in it for the love of the hobby, and then the money will follow after a while. You just do your time and stick with it. Things will work out for you.
Right. I mean, that's why I started building, the smaller niche rackets, because I get probably a message every other day from somebody wanting to build them a 20 high rack. I'm like 1-800-Freedom Breeder,
Yeah.
I don't build those kind of racks. I'm sorry. I build the smaller stuff, and that is just that helps to pay for the animals' food and whatnot that I do. You don't make a killing off of them, you know. So I mean, there's a lot of costs that go along with vending at a show.
Oh yeah.
You got table fees, you got food, you know, and you're buying stuff for your supplies.
What I find is Becky, when we used to vend shows, she wouldn't let me take care of the money because I would walk around and buy stuff as I was making money selling stuff. So
One fight every month at the vendors.
we would be in a hole by the time we left. Hadikatadius? For what?
I guess breach of contract.
Oh.
Supposedly, the producer who really started his career got cut out of everything,
Oh.
and he's suing them for breach of contract.
Who's that?
Huh? She's talking about Hottie Patati,
Oh,
Kane Brown. It's her Hottie Patati, Kane Brown. He's
Even though
suing
he's
some.
only 3 years older than my oldest.
Yeah,
son.
he's kind of a young little guy, but whatever.
27.
I mean, something that stuck with me from Marcus Jane too. I mean, you go back and listen to his phone calls with him and Gavin. And, I mean, Kevin McCurley going, "Hi, Becky. I see you.
Oh, how are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. Are you taking care of him?"
What was
Can you
that?
hear
I
me?
couldn't hear you. Now I can hear you.
I said, "Is Andy taking care of you?"
No.
No.
Yeah. Because if he took care of me, then my butt wouldn't have to work.
Oh. So what's this I hear about your leopard geckos? Are you still going to be doing those, or have you decided?
For you about the leopard geckos.
Huh?
I did the video for you about getting rid of the leopard geckos
Oh.
because you want to do the berms.
Yeah.
Are you thinking of doing that still?
Yeah. I don't know. It's still, there's so many things going on top of that stove right now. It's hard for me to keep track of who's coming and what's going.
Well, you guys are still there, so you're not going. That's what I like.
I don't know, but I would love to run away. But if I run away, then I lose most of my monies. And I got to give it to him to raise the kids. But then again, I take my kids with me, so. But hi, everybody. Bye, everybody. I'm going back to bed because I want to finish my show.
After 24 years, you would miss me.
Oh, no, I would not. I'll let you know next weekend when I'm gone for 2 days, and I'll see how well I live without them. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Becky.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Yeah, like I was saying, you know, those interviews like from Marcus Jane where they were talking about it earlier. The one thing that stuck with me that, like Dave said, and it's what I go by, and my buddy Troy will tell you. I mean, he probably gets tired of hearing me say it. Is the Ball Python Highway is littered with failed breeders.
Oh, definitely.
They're everywhere. And we all know somebody in our neighborhood, you know, around our little circle in our neighborhoods out there, you know, people that got into it, got over their head. And that's why I'm always trying to learn. I mean, you even ask the big breeders, they're, you know, the successful ones are always trying to learn something. So once you stop learning, then you become stagnant and
I agree. But I want to say hello to Brandon Crow stopped in. How you doing? Thank you for stopping in. But I got a couple stories about the highway project that they're not bad stories or nothing, but I'll tell you at a different time, Bill, about them. But yeah, and Dylan said berms over everything. Yeah,
I heard that.
yeah. Slash Outdoors. How you doing, Jeff? Sorry this went like this.
I hadn't seen him in a while. I don't know why my chat is like way behind. It's on live.
See, Jeff is my best friend, so I felt bad because I usually start when he's home, but he was out. I started the lives, but because we were having technical trouble doing it on your channel, so I just figured we would go right here with it. So, and he was out. James Nelson, how are you? Has anybody got any questions for Bill from BC Pythons, James? JW International Exotics said goodnight, Becky. Silly Snake said hello, Becky. Almost home.
Almost home. There we go.
Yeah.
What's going on, Jeff?
Yep.
Really digging that new camera and all those pictures he's putting up on the outdoor channel. It's pretty cool.
He's doing an excellent job. I love the way his pictures are starting to turn out in his videos because of the whole camera situation. His channel is excellent. You guys need to all go over and subscribe to Slash Outdoors too, because he's got some scenery videos because he lives by the ocean. It's excellent.
Good night, Chris. We'll see you later there, Max Morse. That's another good guy.
Max Morse is an excellent guy. Talk to you later, buddy. Thanks for stopping in. I'm curious. What gene? Bill. Dylan from DS Balls wants to know what gene kind of got you into this whole thing. He's showing you right there.
Spider. Fire bee, Khaleesi that I had out earlier, a big girl. Spiders. I just absolutely love the patterns on these. And this is the one I got from TNT Balls. It's I always get it backwards. I have to look at labels. You got to label everything, especially when you get old like me. 66% albino, 50% pied. This one is. So I'm thinking pied not, but the albino for sure is 56%. So.
And he also wants to know, do you like any other species? But I know you do because you got like boas and everything. You're like me. I like them all.
Yeah, I like them all. I'd have a king cobra if I was brave enough and they were legal to have.
Yeah.
You can ask my wife. We went to Myrtle Beach. They have a king cobra. It's the first time I've ever got to see a king cobra live. There's an alligator place there. And they have a herpetarium inside there. Fantastic looking animals, everything. Burmese, cobras, ball pythons. But the king cobra, I stood there. I was like a little kid at the Macy's, Thanksgiving parade, Christmas waiting on Santa. I was like, my nose was pressed to the glass. I'm like, oh my God, see the scales on his head are that big,
Yeah.
I was just fascinated. And I'm like, go on, go take your airboat ride. I'll be right here.
Silly Snake wanted to know what we thought about the spider ban, but we had discussed that already. It was about we both disagree with it, and we think that they need to do some fighting over there because it could be anything that's not normal is a mutation. So there could be trouble with anything. It could go down a path we don't like.
That's what I said. I completely think that's a bad road they're going down. And I hope to God it doesn't. I mean, it's trying to gain momentum over here, but it's not really specific species over here. It's like they're trying to regulate what people have in their house, which is not why we live in America. Ask me.
As for me, what got me into it was I've always was fascinated with snakes. Even when I was a little kid, I was out, bringing stuff home all the time with reptiles and stuff. And then as I got older, I was able to go work in the pet store. And in the pet store, I ended up taking the whole thing over, and it was just went from there. And that's been 30-something years. And like Becky, when we used to go to the zoo in Philadelphia, she'd be like, I would go wander off. She knows where to find me. Would be the reptile house.
Right outside the door.
Yeah, and then it was tough because when I first met Becky, she was kind of fearful of snakes, but that was because her mother got bit by copperhead. So there was a big fear there. But then when I brought her in the house and finally got her, okay, going to get Andrew, and kind of got her past the whole fear, it took some time, but now she loves them because then we went right into breeding berms and retics, and now we're into the balls, and she wants to get back into the berms. So that's where we're going with that.
Missing the berms, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I could get into I guess you could say the dwarf, like Garrett sells.
Yeah, they have dwarf Burmese pythons too. They have a dwarf species of Burmese pythons. Now, I often thought if you took that dwarf species and bred other combinations in it, you'd have to do the percentages like they do with the retics, but you can get all them combinations in that. It would be pretty interesting to see. I'm waiting for them to hit the market with like the pied berms because they have them, and I can't wait till they hit the market. So,
yeah.
Silly Snakes, I have to agree with you. The bumblebee is a gorgeous animal, and that has a spider in it. So over there, that would be outlawed. And yeah, it's not a good thing. I think they have to really. I should have asked Mac more when he was in here what he thought of the whole thing.
Yeah, and one of the first cobras I seen was at Tinley. I mean, I've seen them at the zoos, but one of the first ones I ever seen all hooded up was up at Tinley. 1, 2, 3 years ago. I think it was 3 years ago. Maybe 2.5. The Illinois State Wildlife has an end cap where they have different species of snakes from Illinois and stuff. But on one side, they had a monocled cobra that was all hooded up, and it was awesome.
Jeff says lesser, lesser, lesser. We all love the lesser. I love the lesser. But when I had the pet store, there was another pet store in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania. It's called Martin's Aquarium, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever read the book The Lizard King. Well, that's where a lot of that took place. That was in that Jenkintown Martin's Aquarium, and right down the street there was a place called Jack's Reptiles, and you would go in there, and he had regular. And you could buy anything in Pennsylvania at the time. I mean, you could walk in and say, I want this, and you could walk out with it. But he had like gaboon vipers and puff adders and cobras, and he would have them out all the time right there where you can go up and he would take you through a group, like how to handle them and stuff. And he got shut down because about 3 years after he opened up, some kids were walking on the railroad tracks next to his place, and there was a big gaboon viper there crawling across the tracks. So they shut him down. So, which I can understand that.
That would have adverse effects on your business.
Yeah. Ed from CMC is in here. Ed, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, they're dead.
We were just talking about your liners, and Bill from BC Pythons is changing his whole rack system around so he can get your liners. So that's what he's doing.
Words 108-11, 108-8, 108-23 mean anything? I have a shipment coming in Tuesday. I'll be here.
Yeah. I have a shipment of liners coming also on Tuesday. I believe they'll be here. So that'll be on one of my videos next week. It'll be cool to have. So what was I going to say? I don't know. Anybody else got any good questions for Bill or anything like that, or anything you guys want to know? So, Bill, here's a question for you.
I had a question for you, Andy. I was going to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
You asked me earlier, what are you excited to breed?
What am I excited to breed? Okay, I got that. I'll tell you what she is, but I'm not going to tell you what I bred to her, but I will show you, and I'll let everybody know later on. It's the black bee, which is, of course, a spider. It's a black pastel. And I plan to take that project into a crazy direction, which will be interesting. So we'll see how it goes. There could be some world's firsts in that, and it'll be fun. But my question for you is where do you see the hobby in, let's say, 10 years from now? Cold out?
Where do I see the hobby in 10 years from now? I see a whole bunch of new breeders out there right now that are doing some fantastic stuff. So I think it can only get better from here. People say that, they've hit a plateau, that, you'll never be able to sell these $10,000 or produce a $10,000 snake anymore. I say bull. That there's so much quality people out there now that, they're taking the time to do things right, to learn. They're, listening to people. They're gaining their knowledge, and I think the hobby's just going to explode more. I see more and more snakes on TV now, that people talking about reptiles, like on our local news and stuff, they'll be up on there talking, a snake this or a person this, and it's not all negative now. That's what I see.
I have to agree with you. I do see that the hobby is going to grow. And one reason the hobby is going to grow is because, first off, they're a perfect pet for an apartment. Some apartments won't let you have dogs or cats or even aquariums, because if they leak, you're in, they'll leak downstairs or whatever. So reptiles are a big up and coming thing, because one, you can actually have a collection of reptiles, and you can go away for 3 days and come back and they'll be just fine. You can't do that with a dog. You have to constantly, put the dog somewhere to be taken care of or something, or have somebody come over and do it.
I get a lot of people ask, why do you keep them? I said, because they are a great pet. They really are. You feed them once a week. You clean their water. I do my water probably every other day, but it wouldn't, just check on them daily. You feed them once a week. Most of them only poop once a week or once every 2 weeks. So, there's not, keep them humidity up, and you're basically there.
Yeah, I have to agree with you.
And they don't take a lot of space. You don't have to put them in a kennel when you go on a trip.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's just a simpler, it's even easier than fish. And fish you can leave alone too, but still, it's easier than fish. If a fish tank springs a leak,
you got to clean a fish tank almost every day when you've had them running for a while. That.
I know.
They grow overnight on you.
Oh, they will. But if they spring a leak when you're not home, you could be in some serious trouble when you get back.
Or, another thing about fish is, we had a 125-gallon saltwater tank. I think it was. It may have been bigger. I think it was 175, actually. We had assorted fish in it. My wife wanted this cute little box fish, little small guy. Something happened to him. He died. What happens to those little box fish when they die? They're very poisonous, and they excrete that poison into the ocean, in the water. When they die, it wiped out the entire tank.
Well, that's like the Corydoras catfish produces a toxic enzyme too, but not a poison also. People don't realize it. They'll go to the pet store and they'll say, I want this fish, this fish, this fish, and 3 of those Cory catfish. And they'll put them all in one bag. When you get home, your other fish start not doing real well, and then they die off. Well, that's because the Corydoras catfish has it produces a poison. It's a protection thing. When they swim in big schools, they'll produce the poison too, which will keep other fish away. And they don't realize it. Most pet stores don't realize that, but that's what they do. So,
Yep. And I had a huma eat one of my lionfish one time. We made that mistake. It was a small lionfish, and the huma was, the Picasso, he was probably about yay big, and the lion was just a little baby. We didn't think he'd bother him. We come home one day, and I kept noticing his fins were his spines were missing off the top of the lion. And then I caught him grabbing.
John Feely's here. How you doing, John Feely? How you doing? You have any good questions for Bill that you would like to ask? What?
Hey, John. Yeah, we couldn't get my channel to work earlier, so we came over to here.
Another thing I was gonna say, if I ever get into saltwater, we used to have saltwater at the pet store, but if I would ever do saltwater, it'd be strictly a fragging tank. That's it, with a few clownfish.
Pen real quick.
No, go.
I'm gonna take it from you in a break. That hurt.
So yeah, that's the only thing I would ever do would be a fragging tank. Slowly getting out of all the fish. You know, I've had a lot of fish, but we're slowly winding down the fish because
No, you can't take fish for a walk.
no, you can't take fish for a walk. No. See, the deal with the fish is that they have does that make you feel better if I don't mess with the pen? I won't mess
Wait,
with the
no. You can take a fish for a walk. You can go get a tiny bowl, put the fish in the bowl, and then just take a walk. You got the thing.
You got a Bill laughing here.
Think
Inside the box.
Yes, exactly.
Or outside the tank.
Oh my! Stop.
Ray, we used to sell them at the pet store too. Rays, we had sharks,
You had
stuff like that. But if I were to do one now, it'd have to be a frag tank. But the deal with the fish is there are a lot of maintenance right now. Water changes all the time and stuff. So we're trying to make things a little easier, I guess.
you used to have danger torpedoes.
Yes.
Danger torpedo, people. Danger torpedo.
How many shirts are you going to wear?
That's funny.
He asked how many shirts you were going to wear when you're walking, I guess. Because
I've had like 3 shirts on in the last hour and a half, I think.
oh, him? Yeah.
Oh my shirt.
Yeah. How many shirts you going to wear? Like Jeff said here, Slash. He says he's got a saltwater reef in his backyard, but that's because he lives right off the ocean.
You messing with the pen again.
Yeah, it's so have you ever thought of getting any kind of monitor lizards or anything like that?
Me?
Yes.
No. I watched one eat a live mouse the other day at a show, and I'm like, no, I'm not into that.
Quite violent, huh?
Yeah.
We had one, and it was a black-throated monitor, and it was at the store, and it was a pretty good sized one. And I put my hand under it, you know, with its head facing me, and got it underneath it. And
Probably
somebody
the
asked
biggest
me a
mistake
question. I was holding it, and person asked me a question. I looked over and started talking to him, and I felt the sharp pain right in the crease of my elbow, right in here. It bit it, and then it twisted and jumped and tried to spin. I had to hold it to get it off. My whole elbow swelled up, turned black and blue. Yeah, they can be quite
Vicious.
vicious animal. Not
Yeah.
vicious, I wouldn't say, but
Oh, sorry. Rude.
temperamental.
Rude. Get it right. No, that's even a mean.
Or how
Rude.
or how does Brian Barczyk put it? Cantankerous.
What?
The most violent thing I have in here is my California King.
You know what? If I open up the California King cage I got down there, if I open that up, it will grab my hand every time I open it.
Stop
Yeah.
messing with this.
This little guy just wants to bite me. I mean, he does. But now the more I work with him, I get him out. Of course, I wear my gloves when I handle him because he musks you every time. So there's only been 2 or 3 times I've got him out and he didn't musk me. So, but now, I mean, I could go over there right now and he would start rattling his little tail at you.
So, do you think the little mom and pop stores are going to be wiped out, or do you think they'll make another comeback in the future? Because that's what we had, was a little mom and pop store. It was a pretty good sized store. Don't get me wrong, but do you think that they're going to just phase out? And if they do, it's a real shame because that's where you get your good stuff at compared to like the big box change stores.
Right. I personally, long as they don't ever stop selling, I like frozen thawed myself. I try to feed everything frozen thawed, but as long as there's still a pet store around that's going to have live feeders for whatever, as long as they don't lose that little niche in the little mom and pop things. But the mom and pop things are great because they don't have to go through the whole corporate ladder to change what they're carrying. They can, like I can walk in, you can walk in, anybody could walk in their local little mom and pop and say, "Hey, can you order me this?" And they can order it for you. You know, can you start carrying this certain product, and they'll get it for you. You know,
That's Andrew's phone there. Yeah,
Turn off my notifications.
I have to agree with you there on that.
Sorry about that.
John Feely, John Feely's leaving, but thank you for stopping in. And yes, John, I will have to do that one time for you. No problem, buddy.
Sorry, Dad. I'll put my phone on vibrate.
Okay, thank you.
I
But
put it on vibrate
yeah,
and I
the
turned off
reason,
notifications.
the main reason our store went down is because the guy who owned the building, who owned the store first, he owned the building and he died, and his family wanted nothing to do with it, and there was no way we could finagle to get that all worked out. So just went on from there.
you know,
I would love to have an
location where they're at. You know, you can get a big box store, come in and buy the whole block. You know, and tear up where they've been. You know, and once you move a mom and pop pet store, you know, it's over from there. They got to rebuild their, you know,
Customers
store,
and stuff,
their
yep.
location. Their customers will be different. Yep. So,
I have to say, I wouldn't mind having an online store. I know the deal with like a person could sell like you or I could do it and have like reptiles and stuff on there. But yeah, I would still love to do a store of some sort, even if it was just an online store.
right. I mean, I know Amazon has killed a lot of pet stuff. You know, because you can right now you can log on while you're chatting with us and order you a leash for your dog. You know, have it to your house in 2 days.
I noticed the cocoa fiber, like the stuff that I use for my tarantulas and stuff. I can go to the pet store and buy it, like the little bricks, and they're like $15 a brick or more. Amazon has them for $6. How do you
Right.
compete with that?
Right. I mean, you can't. That all has to do. I think that has a. You know what it is? It comes from the distributors, the middleman that's getting it from one location, putting their 10% or 15% on it, and then you got to add, you know, your percent onto it. So
James Nelson said his local mom and pop reptile store is slowly transitioning over to fish. And he says that really sucks. Well, it does if they're going to completely get out of the reptiles. But then again, you know, these guys have to stay in competition and do what their customers want. So it's when we had it was when a customer come in wanted something, if more and more people came into it and they stopped buying this other stuff, we switched over to stuff. So that you just got to do it to compete. So
Yep. You got to do what you got to do to survive. But if I ran one, I would not limit myself in any way. You know, I would have branches, I would have reptiles, I would have fish, you know, birds.
I have to agree with you. What we did when business started slowing down,
So it's a lot of work.
what we did when business was slowing down is we went to the local schools and put an aquarium in each classroom. You know, at our expense was an aquarium, even if it was only most of them were like 10-gallon aquariums. But then we gave the each student got a 10% off their next purchase at the store, and they would all come in and buy because they would all want aquariums or even as teachers came in and ended up buying stuff, and it really boosted the business pretty good. So that was a good idea there.
Yeah, but for the hobby, I mean, as long as everybody keeps doing animals and having passion, you know, I really think the ball pythons will just keep growing.
Yeah, I don't see any end in sight for the ball pythons, or like now that the retics or the berms. What's your opinion on the? Do you ever think of getting like a green tree python or emerald tree boa? Because I like emerald tree boas.
Yeah, the next time I want to bleed, that's probably one I want to get. Yeah, they can be the kind of those sharp teeth. But yeah, I definitely interested. I've had one in my hand several times at Tinley, and
with the emerald tree boa or the python,
the green tree
python, yes.
Yeah, and it's like I almost do it, but I'm like, I wanted to go over here. So, then I go look at more ball python.
Dylan from DS Balls and Exotics asked, what exotic pet species other than reptile species would you want, Bill and Andy? What would I want?
What exotic?
Yes, other than a reptile.
Other than reptiles. Probably some wild cat.
Very good choice. I would have to really sit down and think about it because when I first read the question, I didn't realize he said reptiles in there. I'd want a caiman. We used to have caimans in the pet store, but no, it can't be caiman, so it has to be non-reptile related. Now, I would say birds, but African grays, I got bit and pierced my finger all the way through, my palm of my hand all the way through with an African gray, so that hurt. I would have to sit and think about that for a minute. The only other thing I could think of would be a reef tank, just reef. Nothing else, like with zoanthids and all them kind of things like that.
With the completely HID lighting and all that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's fun to do that stuff. And then frag them out and stuff.
Yeah. Now, the wildcats, like, the ocelots, the smaller ones like that. And I'm trying to think of the other one's name right now. Like a lynx.
Lynx.
Yes. That would be my exotic, other than reptiles, of course.
Yeah. How's your daughter's bird doing?
The bird is an absolute riot. I've taught it to whistle like a whippoorwill.
Oh, that's great. That's
We
great.
had this long-standing joke with my in-laws and my wife. We were out golfing one time, and my wife was trying to putt, and me and her mom are in the golf cart, and we're going, we're doing whippoorwill sounds, trying to interrupt her and stuff while she's putting, and it was so funny. But I've taught the bird to do that because I'll sit up there and play Fortnite or work on my computer, and I'll whistle like a whippoorwill like that, and the bird does it now in early in the morning and in the afternoon.
A friend I had when I was growing up had an African gray, and he taught it to call his dog's name. So it would constantly call the dog's name, and the dog would be running around to see who called his name, and the bird would just be sitting there. It was funny.
That's the other whistle, because I whistle for the dogs when we let them out in the backyard, and the whistle for them. I mean, like, and the dogs come, we're sitting down here, and the dogs are upstairs laying, watching TV or something. The cockatiel will start whistling for the dogs, and the dogs are like, so they got used to it now. They're like, oh, it's the bird.
Yeah, that's pretty, it's pretty amazing. You can teach the cockatiel to talk, but a woman, it's what I learned when we used to have them and stuff, even with the pet store, a woman really needs to talk to the bird because they associate, I guess it's the higher pitched voices that women have, and they seem to pick up on that better than the man's voice. Now the whistling is different because the whistling is just whistling, but when it comes to talking, that's pretty cool. So if you had your wife or daughter sit and talk to it all the time, it might learn how to talk.
Yeah, it's a smart bird. I have no doubt that it could. I mean, because I just started that whippoorwill like maybe 2 weeks ago, and it didn't take it a week, and it caught on. And I'm sitting there, my wife looks at me and she goes, "Did he?" And I'm like, or she, and I'm like, mm-hmm. He did.
Monk from Balls by Choice says he would like to have an Angolan python and a tiger for an exotic other than a reptile. And he wanted to thank you for your services, and you're much appreciated.
Oh, appreciate it. You're quite welcome. And like Andy knows, anybody knows, if anybody has any questions, I don't know anything, but you can message me on Instagram. I'll get back to you as quick as I can. And if I don't know, I will find an answer for you. So,
yeah, the same here. If I don't know the answer,
it won't be some homemade remedy thing too. It'll be something from a
yeah.
trusted Of course.
If I don't know the answer, I'm sure I can find somebody that knows the answer when it comes to the reptile stuff, even the
Right.
fish. So, and I'm going to ask you, Ed from CMC Reptiles, one of his famous questions are always, I don't see him in here right now. I'm sure he's just listening. But one of his best questions are, if you had $10 million and you could spend it in a hobby, what would you do with it? Where would you spend it on? Like, what would you want to do with it? Like, where would you go with it?
A building.
A building?
A building. Serious. I would build a building and land somewhere, so that, set up a facility. That would, and then the other one would be fill it with, every different morph I can think of. So,
Yeah.
and that would be, a good sized facility where you can have your own supply of rodents and stuff on another completely isolated, part of the building, growing them up and keeping them in. And I mean, you put quality in, you're going to get quality out.
I have to agree with you. The one thing I would spend it on would be like a building. Well, I have the building next door because Becky bought it, the house next door, just for me to slowly move everything over there. But I would think that would have to be like some kind of like zoo where kids can come in and have parties and stuff and intermingle with the animals, like a reptile zoo type of thing, which would be fun.
Right. Yep. So, I mean, that's all part of a facility. You could do something like that too. That, almost like, I mean, that's a great thing that Brian did up there for, the Reptarium, where, people come in there and take a tour of that, and then they can log right in right there and buy one of those animals on the way out. If it's set up something like that where you got hands-on as part of your building too. So, they educate people and show them the way to take care of these animals instead of, sending them to the fish tank, buy a fish tank and put it in it,
I have to agree. When I go into a pet store, I don't even ask questions because I know that I know more than they do about anything in the pet store. It's hilarious.
What's so funny? I'll let you in a little secret. The pet store is called me now.
Yeah, see, Dylan,
and not just about snakes either.
No, yeah, Dylan from DS Balls said with the money he would want to buy Justin Kabalka's collection, and then he's like, he said deep down inside, you want to do it. Yeah, no, you probably couldn't, because I don't think he would would
could for 10 million.
Probably not. I don't think you couldn't buy Brian Marchek's for that either, I don't think.
Justin, I definitely know. Honestly, may let go of a few things for you for 10,000 or 10 million, but he's not going to sell out.
No,
he's not going to hand it over. Trust me.
No, none of these people.
He's got too much stuff in the works up there. Both of them.
Yeah, they got projects going now that won't be out for years yet.
Yeah.
So there's no way they would let it go for that. Not when it's.
I see that at every show too. People, ask you, well, I want to make this, or I want to make that. I'm like, well, you're looking at 6 years. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, because that's recessive, and you're trying to put two recessives together, and then you got to go down this road. It's like, oh, so now you know why they're so expensive.
Yeah. It's just, you would have to do your own thing, I think, with the 10 million. I don't think you can buy anybody's complete collection. Now, little guys you could, but not the big people. I really don't.
Oh yeah, yep. Oh, it's like the Xanthic. That's another big thing in my case over here. That's future. So, I mean, it had its time with the Stormtrooper and all that, but I still think there's a lot there that we haven't really done with.
Yeah. Oh, there's a whole line of stuff there that they haven't done yet. Axanthic, the VPI Axanthic is definitely another one of those that I would love to get into the collection.
I mean, that's mainly what I'm looking for is some females and like the Xanthics. I'm wanting to add some more of them this year and Calico.
Okay, and now Dylan also said, let's get real here for a minute. He would use the money to bribe people to get berms that they don't let in here, to bring some stuff in here. Now he's saying pied berms, but there are pies in here, and I know Old Troy City Reptiles already made a deal to purchase. I believe it is. I believe it's to purchase. Don't quote me on that exactly. Some het for pies. So here in the States, but the other stuff that's, you can't get in. But if you have enough money, you can get anything in the States if you really wanted to. You can get it in.
Right.
You just got to know what you're doing and who to talk to.
Yeah, but that's what I would do with the 10-8. I'd look for me a nice facility.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Go from there. That's what I would do. Plus, I wouldn't spend all that money either. I would keep it in there because there's going to be lean times and any business, there's going to be downs, there's going to be ups. You got to you start any business, you got to have, it took me 8 years before I went out on my own as a subcontractor doing what I do for a living, So that's kind of the theory I'm going with the ball python. It's a 10-year project. So I can't be carrying batteries when I'm 65.
No.
That weigh 80, 90 pounds. So
yeah, I have to agree with you. That's heavy. So
yeah.
So if anybody,
that's why I said it's a 10-year project of mine. Where I want to be in 10 years, and every year I'm adding another piece. I'm thinking 3 years ahead. But the snake I bought yesterday, I'm thinking 3 years ahead.
Yep. So, that's a good way to do it. A lot of people don't do that, but that really is a good way to do it. So
I'm like the offspring from that can be with this girl when she's, one project. There you go.
Yes. Well, does anybody else have any more questions for Bill from BC Pythons or anything like that?
Yep, it's getting to be late, isn't it? It's like 11 something here. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say thank you, and anybody that tuned in over to my channel earlier, sorry, that was my fault. We tried to do the live over there, and Andy was gracious enough to say, well, let's do it on my channel. So we just came over here, and make sure you support Andy and give him a thumbs up here on your way out.
Bill, when you get it going on your place, we'll definitely do this over there when you figure it out what the problem is. I don't know what the problem was, what was going on, why you couldn't get it started over there, but you said it, technical difficulties. First time, there's always going to be technical difficulties. So when you get it figured out, we're definitely going to pop in over there. And so thank you for stopping in, everybody, and we'll talk to everybody later.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks. Yep.